Hello, chess fans. Welcome to another edition of Chess Chat, a program designed to give you, the viewer, a good understanding of the fascinating world of chess. I am George Merijanian, Program Director of the Wachusett Chess Club at Fitchburg State University. This club meets every Wednesday evening from 7 to 11 in room C-159 in the McKay complex at the university. And with me today at the Fitchburg Access Television Production Center is our award-winning director, Darren Dame of Fitchburg. He's assisted in the control room by fellow resident and longtime Wachusett Chess Club member, Brian Bigelow. And behind the camera, following all the action, is longtime FATV volunteer, Andy Hawthorne of Fitchburg. And across from me, sitting once again, is my trustiest associate, co-host, noted chess author, active chess player, Dave Couture of Westminster. Hello, Dave.
Hi, George.
Well, Dave, today's program is going to be a tribute to a woman that made great contributions to chess in this country.
Yep.
She is Ruth Haring, Ruth Inez Haring, and she was president of the United States Chess Federation back in the years 2011 to 2016, I believe. She joined, in fact, she became a member of the executive board of the U.S. Chess Federation in 2009 and served as vice president. We're going to be showing some file photos of her as we talk about her. She learned chess in the late 60s. First of all, she was born in 1955, January 23rd. She's got a birthday coming up. She died at the age of 63 on November 29th, 2018. You know where she actually died was actually in the town of Chico, California. You know what Chico, California is?
Right, with the fires.
Where that devastating forest, the wildfires they had in California back in November.
Right.
It was the town of Paradise was destroyed.
Yeah.
Chico was the next town over. So she experienced the smoke and the
right.
And
she had symptoms of pneumonia, I think, when she was hospitalized, and they wonder if the fires had anything to do with that. Right.
It could have been. It could have actually contributed to her death. But again, she died at the age of 63, and again. She was born in Massachusetts. This was actually in 1955, as I say, in January, because her father was stationed at Otis Air Force Base. He was in the Air Force, and that's where she was born. Then he got reassigned to Alaska, an Air Force base in Alaska, and then the family moved from Alaska to Fayetteville, Arkansas. Fayetteville, Arkansas, where I learned that her father became head of graduate studies at the University of Arkansas. Okay. It was there where she met a player, a strong player, by the name of Bill Orton, who lived next door. They eventually got married. I think the marriage was sometime in the early 70s. But that marriage did not last long. I don't know how many years in the 70s they were married, but she divorced him. And here is the local connection. A lot of people would not know this, that Ruth Orton came to our area, came and played in Leominster in 1977. It was November 1977. She came accompanied by a player who became a grandmaster the following year in 1978. His name was Peter Biasis. Peter Biasis was born in Greece, but his family settled in Vancouver, British Columbia in Canada. And she came to that tournament with Peter Biasis. She was only 22 years old, and I have a picture. I told you I have a picture that I took of her that I wish I could find where it is at the house. But I have a picture of her sitting on the floor of the Holiday in Leominster, analyzing one of her games with her soon-to-be husband, Peter Biasis. So I got to find that photo because I will treasure that photo. Anyways, so what happened after she married Peter Biasis? They moved to San Francisco, and that's where they lived. And you know who visited them back in the early 80s? Bobby Fischer.
Right.
Bobby Fischer came to San Francisco, stayed with them, and Peter Biasis, in some of his memoirs, said, Bobby Fischer, when he came to visit us, he had such an appetite. He was eating constantly. My wife was cooking for him constantly, and Peter was complaining about all this food. And Ruth told to her husband, she says, you know, the trick at defeating Fischer was to cook a lot of extra potatoes. So that's what she did. Yep. Okay. Now, Ruth was also asked about Fischer, you know, after Fischer, you know, while he was still alive, people say, you know, Fischer stayed with you? Wasn't he crazy? What is a crazy guy doing, you know, at your place? I want to read a quote from Ruth Haring about Fischer's stay at their place in San Francisco. She was asked about Fischer, and here's what she said about Fischer being, you know, crazy. She says, "I don't think he's any stranger than my own husband. Chess personalities in general are introverted. They don't deal with social relationships well, but there's nothing wrong with him. He certainly is not crazy." So that was Ruth Haring's opinion of Fischer, that he wasn't crazy at all. So anyway, as I see, Ruth Haring, she learned chess in the late 60s, was very much involved with chess to the point where the World Chess Federation awarded her the title of Women International Master in 1977, the year that she came to Leominster.
Oh, okay.
The governing body for chess in the world awarded her the title of WIM, World International Master. Yeah. So, but again, her great contribution was to the U.S. Chess Federation, being the president. And Bill Goichberg, now people who are involved in chess seriously know the name Bill Goichberg.
Right.
He is the #1 chess organizer in this country, has been for at least maybe 5 decades. He's been #1.
A long time, yeah.
And he served on the executive board for many years. And he said that
he was president at one point too, wasn't he?
Yes, he served. He served admirably, and still he just turned, let's see, 76 this past November. He's still going strong, Bill Goichberg. Yeah. So Bill Goichberg said that during Ruth Haring's presidency, the Federation's finances improved dramatically. He had nothing but the highest praise for Ruth Haring.
Yeah.
Now, what we're going to do today, you have actually some quotes.
A couple quotes.
Because she actually had 3 children. From her marriage for Peter Biasis, she had a son, Theodore Biasis, and there were two daughters she had, Lauren and Tina. But read the quote to our viewers, what her son, Theodore Biasis, said about her mother.
Yeah, it said, this is how Theodore would like his mother to be remembered. She wasn't anywhere near as strong as she was in the 1980s when her peak was around 2,200, but she just loved to play. She didn't care if she was at her rating floor, though occasionally she'd find her form and casually crush masters or experts. She wasn't afraid of anyone either. She approached all her games the same way, playing to win regardless of whether she was playing a grandmaster, a club player, or an aspiring youth. I hope she's remembered for her love of chess. And as a player, even though her political contributions overshadow her playing career, she got involved because she loved to play. And then the comment, there was an article about her on chess.com.
Yes.
And the writer said, in remembrance, one common theme kept reappearing, that Haring rose above the fray, managing to keep up relationships of sometimes disparate groups. She also represented her state association, Cal Chess, on its board of directors. According to one colleague, she served in politics without being political, which is quite a feat.
That is quite a feat. That's not easy to do when you're in politics.
Right.
Okay. A great quote from the son Theodore. Well, anyways, Ruth was an avid chess player. Her active years were the 1970s and 80s. You know, unfortunately, there are very few of her games that are available online. If one were to go to chessgames.com, which has thousands of players in the world, Ruth, I only found 14 games that have been posted. My wish is that the players that knew her, played her, or knew players who played her, would actually submit games and add to the database of her games. Because she played thousands of games in her career.
Right.
Now we're going to present to our viewers, Dave, a game she played from a chess Olympiad.
Right.
It was played. What year? What year was it? 1980. It was in Malta.
1980, yes.
1980. She was playing for the U.S. women's team in the Olympiad, which is actually a team competition, and the and the World Chess Federation holds that every 2 years.
Right.
You know, like the rest of the world holds Olympics every 4 years.
Right.
Well, the chess people do it every 2 years.
Right.
They hold Olympics or Olympiad.
And she played on, I think, five
Yes,
teams in a row?
5 in a row, starting in 1974, right up until 1982, 74, 78, 82.
80.
5 straight Olympiads she played in for the U.S. women's team. Yeah, so she was really heavily involved in chess during the 70s and 80s. Now, we have a game from that 1980 Olympiad from Malta.
Yeah.
Who did she play in this team competition?
Anne Martin from Australia.
Okay, and you told me something about Anne Martin. She was the girls' champion?
At the age of 16, I think she was girls' champion.
She was the girls' champion
So I don't
of
know what
Australia?
year that was, but
Okay, but again, she was playing a strong player from Australia. Okay, Anne Martin had white in this game.
No, Ruth
I'm
had
sorry,
white.
Ruth. Oh, so Ruth had white. That's
Yep.
right. Ruth had the white pieces.
Yep.
What did Ruth open the game with?
she opened with E4,
Okay,
which we've seen before many times.
okay. Now, her opponent, Anne Martin, responded with C5. Now, what is this? This is a characteristic of what defense?
The Sicilian,
Sicilian defense. One of the,
probably the most popular
probably the most
response.
popular defense against E4.
Yep.
Okay, how did Ruth continue on move 2?
Knight F3,
Okay,
developing a knight.
very natural, most commonly played move against C5. Now here is where Anne on second move 2 played E6. She could have played the pawn to D6, could have played the knight to C6, but she chose E6.
Right.
Good move, nothing wrong with it. Okay, what does Ruth now do on move 3?
She plays a move that's not that typical. I mean, a typical move is D4,
Yes.
but she plays to D3.
Okay, all right. Well, this shuts in the bit. Right now, it's the bishop is shut in here with the
Right.
because the pawn blocks. That's why D4 is
Right.
more commonly played.
It's less aggressive.
Less aggressive. She's okay. So here is what Black Anne Martin played. She played Knight C6. She develops a piece. Knight C6. How does Ruth continue?
Well, like you said, now her bishop is blocked in, so what she's going to do is fianchetto it.
Okay.
So she plays G3 on her fourth move.
All right. Now that gives Black the opportunity now to play D5. D5 is now played. That was move number 4 for Black.
Yeah.
All right. How does now what does Ruth do now?
Ruth plays knight on B to D2.
Okay. Now she didn't want to play the knight to C3 because it could be attacked with the pawn push to D4.
Right.
So that is a better square to go to in developing. All right. Here is what Black did. Knight F6 now. Knight F6 is played. Okay. So Ruth's move number 6. All right. She
Bishop G2.
All right. Bishop G2, and now. Anne plays Bishop E7 on her 6th move. Okay. What does Ruth do now?
So now Ruth castles as soon as she can.
Okay. So that's quick castling. So
Yep.
she did it in 6 moves. Well, Black can also castle in 6 moves,
Right.
and that's what Anne Martin did. She castles. All right. Now, what we have here, we started out with what looked like the Sicilian defense,
Right.
which it was, the
Right.
first moves, but this is no longer a Sicilian defense. By transposition, we have reached something that you labeled correctly when we went over this game. Isn't this a King's Indian attack?
Right. Yep.
This is called the King's Indian attack.
Yep.
Okay, so we've transposed.
Right.
Okay, so it's Ruth's move now. What does she play now?
Rook E1
Okay,
to support
Right.
this pawn.
Yeah,
and
because-
if the file opens up,
right, and the rook has no future.
Right. Right.
No future there on F1.
yeah.
Now, as you see, Black has the problem that Ruth had as far as with the light squared bishop.
Right.
Black's light squared bishop is shut in, only confined to this square. So Black now plays in response to rook E1, B6, giving you the opportunity
The same,
to
same idea.
De fianchetto, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, what does Ruth do now?
Now she plays E5 on her 9th move,
Okay,
attacking the knight.
all right, now forcing the knight to move.
Right.
So the knight actually is going to go to D7. Back to D7. Now we have two knights attacking the pawn to E5, but of course, white is protecting the pawn twice
right.
with the rook and the knight. All right,
Right.
so so far so good. How does Ruth continue after knight D7?
I'd call this a slightly unusual move. Knight F1.
Now you said the computer did not like this. What was there any comment?
No, I think that was actually there was
The computer,
a book move.
a book move.
Right. Now it frees up the bishop,
Okay,
and I guess the thought is that she might be repositioning here.
right. Okay,
If she had brought it out here instead, there's always the chance that it was going to get kicked.
yes, right.
So
this is a better deployment over here.
right.
Now here we have actually the first threat of the game with this move.
Yeah.
Black plays queen C7. What is the threat now? With the queen on C7, what is black
Now
threatening?
you've got 3 pieces attacking that pawn, but only 2 guarding.
So it's the threat is to win
the pawn.
Win a pawn. All right. So
She needs to add a defender.
I don't think Ruth, as white, wanted to lose that pawn.
Right.
So how did she respond to queen
So
C7?
she develops her bishop and adds another defender to that pawn.
Okay, bishop F4. Okay. So black now has to continue. Could actually played the bishop
Right.
here, but instead chose to put the rook. The rook on F8 is going to move over to D8, the D8 square. Okay, so she wants to be on this file, which is right now closed. It's closed, but it could eventually down the road open up. It could open up, and that's a good place to be
Right.
on an open or semi-open file.
And if it opens, it's aiming at that queen.
Yes, right.
So
All right. So how does Ruth respond to rook D8?
Ruth starts an attack here with H4.
Wow. Now was there any comments from the computer
No,
about that?
no.
The computer likes this.
Yeah.
Okay. Computer finds nothing wrong with H4. Okay. So now here is where Anne Martin, on her 12th moves, develops this bishop to B7 to be along this long diagonal.
Right.
Okay. Okay. Ruth's move. What does she do now?
So now you see a part of the reason for having pushed H4 is it opened up this square for the knight.
It vacated that square for the knight to
Right.
redeploy that square.
Yep.
With the possibility of sinking into G4. Yeah.
Right. Yep.
All right, so it helps the development of that knight that got redeployed. Okay, so after the knight on the first rank went to H2, now this is where Anne Martin advanced the pawn to D4, pushes the pawn, which now makes a battle. Look, we have actually a battle on this long diagonal
Right.
here.
Yep.
Okay, what does Ruth do now after D4?
She plays A4.
Okay, all right, that's interesting. Now, what's happening here? Well, here is what black did in response to A4. Now, this is rather strange. Now, you and I actually, when we reviewed this game, said we shook our heads in disbelief. Black played B5.
Yeah.
Now, wait a minute. This we knew that this is offering a pawn here.
Yeah.
Yeah, and actually, the pawn can be taken.
Yeah, you almost wonder if the game score was wrong almost because it seems like, if that's what she had done, Ruth would have taken, but
Exactly.
But she didn't.
No, she didn't.
And we're not sure why.
We'll never know why. Why she never took that pawn that was offered to her. Instead, of course, now it's white's move. White did not take the pawn. Instead, played what?
Queen E2.
Queen E2. Okay.
So adding yet another defender to that pawn.
Okay. Now, in response to that, here is black now played the knight on D7 to B6.
Yeah.
Now we definitely have a threat. Black has a threat of taking that pawn here.
Right.
All right. So what is white going to do now? It still could take it. Could still, yeah.
Still could take.
That's still that pawn is there for the taking.
Right.
Yeah.
So again, we wonder what was going on here. She played knight G5.
Okay.
So continuing the attack.
Right. Exactly. All right. So after knight G5, well, I guess black did not like this knight here. This is rather annoying to have a knight so deep in enemy territory. The black now played H6, attacking the knight. Okay. So the knight can't stay there.
Right.
So what did white do?
She played the knight back to H3.
Okay. So Ruth retreated the knight to H3.
Yep.
Now, this is another strange. When we went over the game, we shake our heads because sometimes we don't understand you know.
Yeah, we wish we could talk to the players.
So what was your idea behind
Right.
doing this? Black played bishop f8, retreated the bishop back to f8. Okay,
Yeah.
fine. Okay, well, again, it does add further defense to this pawn on h6, which is only defended by one pawn. But what did Ruth play now in response to bishop f8?
She plays queen g4.
Aha, but now we have a threat.
Yes.
What is white's threat after queen g4? Well, of course, it's black's move, but if it were white's move,
Right.
the threat would be to win a pawn.
Right.
With the bishop taking on h6, and the pawn could not take that because the pawn is pinned.
Right.
All right, so there is a threat of winning this pawn
Yep.
on h6 after queen g4. And this is why black played king h8, okay, moving the king over to h8 to be off this pin. All right, so what does Ruth do now after king h8?
Queen h5.
Queen h5. Now, does the computer have something to say about this?
It liked the temporary sacrifice here.
So the computer advocated sacrificing that bishop on h6.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
And then after black
And
takes back, then put the queen there.
All right. And then actually, look at, and then this is a very weakened square after the pawn. If this pawn would have to take back. All right. So, but Ruth played queen h5. You said.
Queen h5. Right.
Okay. Well, so here is where black said, okay, you know, monkey see, monkey do. We can play the king back to g8. So we'll go back here, and go back where we came from.
Right.
All right. So what does Ruth do now? Ruth now on her 20th move.
She plays knight g4, so now she got another piece coming in.
Yeah, look at all these pieces now are massing on this king side. Yeah.
Right.
All right.
And Anne's pieces are all over on the
exactly.
queen side.
And look at this. This pawn has been sitting here for the offering here. All right. So after knight g4, this is where black must have started panicking, and she realized we need to some forces to bring them over to the king side to help with the defense on this side. And Black and Martin played knight e7, bringing this over here. Also, probably with the threat. Isn't there actually possibly? There's a threat of actually coming in here. I mean, there's all kinds. Oh yeah, here's a nice square to go to. All right. So what do we have here? After knight e7. This is now 21st move. What does this allow Ruth to play? Move 21?
Move 21. She actually exchanges the bishops on the diagonal.
Okay. All right. This forces now black to retake with the queen. Queen takes the bishop on b7. Queen takes b7. Okay, that's off. Okay. Now what comes? Ruth's move. What does she do now?
Now she really starts the attack. She sacrifices that bishop.
So now she takes the pawn on h6 with the bishop, not the knight, with the bishop. And what black didn't she accept the sacrifice? Yeah. Well, because she either accepts it or declines it. She chose to accept the challenge, and she wanted to prove to this the sacrifice is unsound. Yeah. So she took it. Yeah. The g pawn takes the bishop on h6. G takes h6. All right. How does Ruth continue now? What does she do?
So now she brings in the knight. Knight f6, check.
Check, okay. Now, the king has to move.
Right.
And the king can't go in the corner because the king cannot leave the defense of this pawn on f7. So the king is forced to go up to g7 and still protect this pawn on f7. All right. How does Ruth continue after king g7? It's her 24th move coming up.
Knight f4, so now she's bringing the knight in.
Okay, a knight in. Okay, all right, so that's another knight coming into play here. Yeah. All right, here is where now black now plays this knight on b6 up to d5. Plays it the knight on b6 to d5. Wants to eliminate.
Right. So attacking both of these knights.
Right. Actually, probably wants to get rid of this knight and then be able to take that that pawn.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. So what does Ruth do now after knight bd5? How does she continue?
Queen g4 check.
Queen g4 check. All right. So what she did here in response to queen g4 check, she went into the corner. King h8 was her move, right? Okay. Now what does Ruth do?
She takes the knight on d5.
Okay. All right. So we have to take back, and she took it back. She's not taking back with any major piece like the queen. She'd lose the queen, or with the rook, she'd lose the rook. She takes back with the pawn.
Right.
So E takes D5. So those are exchanged. Those knights are exchanged. Okay.
Yep.
Now what comes?
Now she pushes E6.
E6. Wow. And the threat is actually even the take here. I mean, right now the pawn is attacking the pawn on F7.
Right, and it also allows, you know, this rook to come down to here or here.
Right. Okay, here is where, now here comes the blunder.
Right, she's still
hanging
Black
in.
is still hanging in, yeah.
So this is a defensive position for Black?
Defendable, yeah.
It's not easy, but it's still defendable, right?
Yeah.
Here is where she makes her crucial mistake, right?
Yeah.
She comes here with a bishop at F8 to play the G7. The idea she wants to she wants to win this knight.
Right.
But that's the mistake.
Yeah.
Okay. How did Ruth punish this move, bishop G7?
So she plays knight H5.
Okay. With what threat?
Now she's threatening queen here, checkmate.
Yeah. All right. So this is a mate threat.
Yep.
Right here. Queen takes G7. All right. So Anne, I should say, after she blocks. She blocks with the knight G6, thinking, okay, I'm blocking this queen attack on the bishop. I use the knight as my blocker. Unfortunately, what does that allow Ruth to do?
So now she takes the bishop.
Okay, takes the bishop, and Anne, Black, takes the knight
Takes back.
with the king.
Yep.
Okay, all right. And now what does Ruth do after that?
Now the final move, she plays H5.
Right.
Attacking this knight, which is pinned.
Okay. So White's going to get a piece back. She sacrificed the bishop.
Yeah.
But Black made the decision either because she was had her time run out, or she was low on time on her chess clock, or she realized that what would ensue. Let's show our viewers very quickly what would happen on this. What would happen? What would be the continuation? Could she bring the queen over to try to help? Bring the queen over to E7, try to help with the defense here.
Yeah.
But then we have actually H stage G6, and then she's got
the pawn back,
and then take with the pawn here. Okay, and then all right. So we reach a position like this.
Yeah.
This is an endgame position. Rook and pawns. You and I agreed that if we were on the Black side of this,
we'd keep playing.
We'd keep on playing.
Right.
Ruth's opponent, Anne Martin, chose to resign after the pawn was pushed to H5, where she would have to give back the piece that was sacrificed to her.
And White's definitely winning.
This is winning, yes. Actually, I think the computer said this is still a winnable position, right? Okay.
But not resignable.
Not resignable
if you're Black. But like we said, maybe she ran out of time.
Yeah. Okay. Well, anyways, Chess Chat fans, we hope you enjoyed the game. The game that I presented to you by Ruth Haring, former U.S. Chess Federation president, women's international master, who came at the age of 22, played in Leominster at the Central New England Fall Open at the Holiday Inn, and we're going to miss her. She died, again, on November 29, 2018, at the age of 63. So stay tuned next time for another edition of Chess Chat.